Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek through Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We're on volume 22, chapter 5, and things didn't really turn out how I thought it would. I'm like, there's a war brewing up. Ostra's getting involved. The King Dragon Realm's in the middle here. We got these vassal states getting attacked. We got Mills over here getting involved, and it just wraps up. It just wraps up. Whatever, it's fine. My theories on Millis didn't go anywhere. It wasn't as big and epic as I thought it was going to be, but it's still fine. It's still, again, it kind of reassuring us that Rudius has a lot of these connections, and he's able to use those connections. That's the big part of it, but we'll get into it as we get into it. These next two chapters were really fun. I really especially liked the interlude. Obviously, I'm going to like the interlude. Two best wives in there. We're going to actually obviously enjoy it, but yeah, some really good little chapters here. I'm really not sure how I'm going to do chapter 6 and 7. I'm assuming they're probably going to be together. I know which direction it's going, and I think it's going to probably go well together. We'll see as we get there, but as per usual, greatly appreciate everybody's support. Thanks for dropping by for the premiere. Hey chat, hope you guys are doing well. You guys got a little bit crazy towards the last Mushoku Monday, but that's okay. You guys did good overall. Just that later part, I'm like, I'm probably not going to look at the chat. I'm just probably not going to look at the chat. But I greatly appreciate you guys' support, your kind words, everything you guys do. It makes Mushoku Monday what Mushoku Monday is, and I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. But yes, we had some great super chats and memberships last week. We had Nicholas with a long-time membership. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Monroe with a super. Thank you, Monroe. Inferno Torch with 2 supers. Thank you so much, Inferno Torch. You're amazing. Red Shambles with a super. Spud Monkey with a membership. Thank you, Spud Monkey, for joining the memberships there and getting your emotes. And then, yes, thank you, Gearless, for a massive super once again. My heart goes out to you. I'm so sorry for your loss. I hope you're doing well there. Always reach out to me if you need anything. Thank you so much for your support, even still. Wishing you and your family the best. But with that said, let's dive into chapter 5. The King of the King Dragon Realm. Rudius had learned some things over the past few years. Even amongst equals, you still had to demonstrate your authority. If you don't, big organizations will walk all over you. That's very, very true, at least from a business standpoint, the idea that you kind of have to show that you are on equal footing, otherwise they'll think that they can kind of downplay your achievements and what you supply or whatever, and so they're going to probably, they're going to cut you a bit. They're going to cut you a bit. You got to puff out your chest quite a bit in order to get those good deals and whatnot. Rudius was now at the Austrian embassy in Wyvern. Ariel was a major shareholder in their corporation, and no matter where they were, advertising that they were backed by the Austrian Kingdom brought clout. In reality, Orsa was the one backing the Austrian Kingdom, not the other way around. But both were backing Rudius, so either way, it worked out. It is kind of funny that he's been hitting on this a lot lately, in the idea that, like, yeah, technically it's Orsted that's backing everything, but nobody cares about Orsted, they care about Austria. Currently, they're negotiating directly with the King Dragon Realm's government. If we're just Rudius, he'd get kicked to the curb. But he figured with borrowing from the Austria Kingdom, he'd avoid another Millis. This meant clothes and carriage from the embassy, while holding onto the letter from Ariel. I like how, like, later on, technically he sort of says the same thing. That idea of, like, causing your own fires and having to clean them up. The firemen and their own fires or whatever. He was trying to avoid another Millis, but he avoids it by technically going out there and strutting that power of Austria Kingdom, obviously. At the moment, though, he was waiting for Aisha, who was taking forever to get changed. This picture was spicy. Aisha, you can take anything you like back with you, so hurry up. Eris is waiting. But big brother, I can't decide. Do you think green is best after all? Eris is wearing red, and you're wearing gray. Aisha had been wandering around in her undies, trying to choose her outfit. Rudius would normally avert his eyes while a woman was getting dressed, but Aisha wanted him to choose. Bull crap. That's like a load of BS right there. Normally, I would avert my eyes from a changing woman, but Aisha wanted me to look. Yeah, sure, you always keep an eye on it. Now you have an excuse. So while enduring glares from other maids, he watched her get changed. Even still, when he chose one, she denied it, saying it was too much like Eris's. Since the maid outfit had caused a bit of problem last time, he was all for something more proper. But she was just getting way too into it. This little line right here makes me believe that he probably chose the red one. So when Eris comes in later, she's like, the red one. No one around Rudius put much effort into getting ready. So it was a welcome novelty at first, but it was wearing thin at this point. Yes, we already know that Sylphie is not picky. Like, whatever she has, she's going to throw on. And that was, again, sort of attributed to the fact that she was guarding Ariel for the longest time, and so she had that one suit that she was always wearing. She's going to wear the bodyguard outfit, and so later on, even when she has the choice of her own, no longer working under Ariel, she didn't have anything, so they had like to go out and buy things for her. Roxy, I can see, like, she just wants her usual robes and whatnot, and now she's working at the university, so she's gonna wear whatever they have for uniform. So yeah, she's not really picky there. Eris, yeah, whatever's good to move in. Her usual outfit for the sword god style. So yeah, I guess it makes sense. Nobody else really seems to care. I don't even think Norm probably cares all that much. But then, I'm not in a leading role, so maybe Plainer's best? You can be showy if you like. In fact, yeah, let's blow the minds of the King Dragon Realm's big shots with your unparalleled cuteness. Oh, be serious. Now she was bad. Still, with how few men Aisha got to spend time around, she might as well dress fancy. Step out in a super cute outfit, chat with some noble boys, grab that trophy wife bag. They'd have to have a talk if she brought home someone too weird, but Aisha herself said that she didn't really have much work to do here. Besides, she was free to love whoever she liked. I actually find this little bit very interesting because this is sort of going to be, again, one of those after effects of Aisha's life so far. Again, being born with a washcloth in hand, like her whole point in life was going to be serving Rudius. Learn everything you need to do in order to be the best maid possible. And then finally getting to live with him, choosing at that point to want to serve Rudius rather than to go school and go for something else. Now she's at his side all the time. And now we're getting into, finally, after so long, we're getting into this idea that, okay, we might want to push her and have her do other things. Meet people. And I have that same mindset. She needs to meet somebody that, besides Rudius, to get with, because obviously Rudius isn't going to accept her in that way. And so there's been a lot of conversations about, okay, we need to have her meet a boy or something like that, or just get out there more. She's technically doing that with the mercenary band. So this statement right here is kind of weird. She doesn't hang out with many men. You would think that she's running into a lot of men, both in anybody that's brought to recruit. She probably talks to them quite a bit. Now, granted, probably a lot of underlings are handling a lot of that stuff. You don't want her meeting every single candidate, but she's probably meeting a lot of people. And then you have the fact that she's going to all these countries and she's setting up the mercenary band. She's meeting with companies and whatnot to purchase these locations. You would assume that she's meeting a lot of people in order to make all these connections. Now, granted, meeting people through business sometimes doesn't allow for much casual talk and whatnot. But if you're a good salesman, if you're a good business person, you're going to connect with people. That's how you get to know them better and thus get better deals and better connections. So I don't know. But still, the main key thing here is it's almost sad that we've had this build up from the point where she was, again, born with a washcloth in hand, serving Rudius this whole entire time, that when it comes time for her to finally have people kind of pushing her out, she feels uncomfortable. Right here, it gives me a sense that she feels uncomfortable. I'm not a leading role, so I should wear something plainer. She's used to every time they go out, she's wearing a maid outfit. She's wearing a servant outfit. And now finally, Rudius is saying, put that dress on, look cute, get out there, meet somebody, and she's not comfortable with it. She's not used to it. I kind of wonder if this would be something that over time would be a difficulty for her, is finally being on the front stage, no longer being behind Rudius and serving him and looking plain and having her maid outfit as a servant, but finally pushing her out as her own girl. You are your own woman. Stand out there, catch the attention of somebody, be a shining beacon, be your own person. But no, I don't want to outshine Eris. I don't want to outshine you. I'm not the leading role. I shouldn't be standing out too much. I like having finally Eris stand out there and say, you're my sister, get out there and look good. Okay. It just takes her, a sister, to kind of sit there and go, no, girl, get out there. Get him, girl. You don't have to stand back and look plain for us. It's very interesting. Okay, wear the dark green one. That way you won't match Eris. Plus, it's not too showy. How's that? I guess. But, like, the skirt's too short. You can see my legs. Reese didn't find a fault in that. She could show them off. Still, the maids around were making faces like it was a no-go. Maybe legs were indeed a little risque. Why is it in the embassy, then? That makes you kind of wonder, then why is it at the embassy? I guess for more private meetings, not royalty meetings, you're obviously going to dress differently there. Well, Aisha grumbled in her underwear, going back to picking around. Rudius got a front row seat to how much she had grown. She was filling out in all the right places. Hotness seemed to run the family. It was kind of hotness that brought the creeps calling. Like Rudius. It almost sounds like Rudius right here is projecting. He's a little bit like, yeah, I know exactly what they'd be looking for, and I'm creeping right now, so obviously that's what would be calling it. Paul's family, the Notos Grey Rats, had a thing for big breasts. Example, Zenith and Lilia. Grandma probably had big knockers too. Yeah, surprisingly we never met Grandma Grey Rat. I think they said that she passed away. That's been a long time ago. I think they said that she passed away. Reese's daughters would probably turn out the same. He couldn't picture future Lucy with big breasts bouncing around. But if Eris had a daughter, she'd be a knockout for sure. Hey, big brother. Huh? Well, Aisha was standing there with her hips thrust to one side, hands on the back of her head to show her sides. He'd seen that pose before. Who taught you that? Priscilla, she said it's got a perfect hit rate. She's lying. She never scored with that pose. I wouldn't trust her advice. No way. She's so popular in the mercenary company, though. Hey, we're not here to hang out. Hurry up and choose. Yeah, I don't. Priscilla. Well, I don't think yes, Priscilla's gonna be super popular. And yes, a lot of that has to do with the fact that she's a princess. I mean, that was like the whole thing with mating season. All the people were after her and Linnea. But yeah, she's got a good figure. I mean, Rudy's himself even pointed out that she's got both Linnea and Priscilla are just like knockouts. He was trying to move her along, but they had plenty of time. The King Dragon realm was unexpectedly relaxed about punctuality, so no one would fuss if they were a bit late. But Rudy's personal motto was not to leave things to the last minute. Still, it was important to always have a bit of wiggle room, so you could go through life with time and peace of mind to spare. Unfortunately, some people wanted to get everything done as fast as possible. Like Eris? Hurry up! Eris threw open the door with a bang and barged in. She wore a luxurious red jacket with black pants, formal dress of a King Dragon Realm nobility. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. It really suited her, every inch the gallant swordswoman. Though she was wearing the men's version of a formal dress. According to the maids, she couldn't wear a sword in any of the gowns from the embassy. That made her decision for her. She's like, what selection do I have? Well, these ones you can't equip swords with. Okay, these ones then. If I can't wear my sword, I ain't freaking wearing it. How are you still trying stuff on? Oh, hi, Eris. Sorry, there's so many options. Eris huffed, strode up, and grabbed a wine red dress. Put this on now. But, Eris, they won't match. What, you don't want to look like me? Well, it's just like, I'm supposed to be in the background. It's no good if you don't stand out. Not today. You're my little sister. So you better wear something that doesn't embarrass me. Aisha went a bit pink, then with a sheepish laugh, took the dress. Well, when you say it like that, Eris, I guess I'll take this one. She looked more than a little pleased. Maybe she was happy that Eris called her little sister. The mind of a teenage girl was a mystery to Rudius, but what was important was that she was happy. It's so cute. It's so cute. I love it. Now, the picture doesn't really show Eris with a ponytail, just kind of her hair down. But, I mean, it is kind of a little bit more pushed back or whatever. But still, it's like really cute little concept and the idea of finally having Eris kind of walk in there and just kind of nudge her to stand out. You're my little sister. You know, look good. You're supposed to look good next to me because you are my sister. It's just so cute. It's like, stop being the maid and be somebody. Stand out there. No, I don't want to outshine you. You're supposed to be the shining beacon. Now, you could say there's an argument to the idea of she should be looking more prominent because she's the show of power. But it's like, no, you're my sister. Stand out there. You're not the maid. And again, it sort of was before here kind of implying the idea that she didn't want to have the same mistake as what happened with Millis. The idea of her being seen as a maid and that causing a problem. Again, this is something that really did affect Aisha. It made it as if she caused that whole incident. Now, yes, there was a whole part with her letting Zenith be left behind, and then Geese came by and snagged her up. That was a big part of it, but that was sort of something that was also led up to by the conflict happened at Claire's. So I could see her kind of having that desire to start standing out more and looking more presentable, but it is cool that, again, Eris has to step up there and say, get out there, girl. I want you to look good. It's so cute. But yes, the picture. Aisha and her filling out very well. Yes, Aisha filling out very well. I think Eris looks super sharp in that outfit too. Like, Eris looking super good. It's just kind of a bummer though, because after this, we never get to hear Aisha and Eris being there. Like, they're just, apparently they went with him there, but then they just disappeared at some point. Like, they're not even present for any of the conversation or even noted as being there. I don't think Eris was noted as being in the audience room. After arriving to the castle, they went to the audience chamber. Reese had spent a lot of times in audience chambers. It was a chance for somebody to flaunt their wealth. A wide open room, gorgeously furnished, and sometimes garbed in swanky armor. The kingdom of Ashra did a spectacular job on size and luxuriance. Its audience chamber was spacious and full of people, simply dazzling. When he first checked it out, it was decked out more heavily for Ariel's coronation. But Reese felt the Yasran audience chamber came in hot at a global number 2. I knew immediately when he said global number 2 right here. Oh yeah, it's gonna be Petagoose's. It's gonna be Petagoose's for sure. There's a chance it could have been like Etof's, but it's like not really, because that place kind of was. It felt like they kind of implied that it was just a took over location, wasn't really done up or anything. There was no real note to it, really, is what the case is. Like, he wasn't noting how great it was. Whereas, again, Petagoose, he went to great length to explain that whole process of going in there and just feeling that awe. Number 1 didn't stop at the audience chamber itself, but extended its grandeur to the route that you took to get there. Elegant gardens, artwork, towering door to the audience chamber. while furnishings inside were all stripped down simplicity. The 12 knights lined up to the throne wore masks and had an air of mystery and intimidation. While even they seemed somehow unremarkable, it was designed to further focus attention to the throne. On the throne sat a man, the only one not wearing a mask. All who made it there were rendered speechless by his breathtaking delicacy, refinement, and sheer presence. They praised his magnificence to the heavens. This was, of course, the audience chamber of Chaosbreaker, the floating fortress, abode of armored dragon King Pegasus. Pegasus had the best taste in the world, no exaggeration. The audience chamber of the King Dragon realm was sloppy. 2 giant armors flanked the door, possibly 3 meters tall, too big for anyone to wear, though there could be some tall races somewhere in the world that Rudius didn't know about. But none resided in the King Dragon realm. It was probably just meant to be intimidating to visitors. Yeah, when I read this, I'm like, yeah, technically 3 meters tall is tall. That's like, what, 9 feet in normal measurements? I think it's like 9 feet or something like that. It's not too much of a stretch to think that somebody would be that tall. I mean, there's humans that are really tall. But yeah, my mind immediately went to, Bodycotty's huge. So I was thinking like demon races and whatnot. And so yes, it makes sense that, of course, in the King Dragon realm, it's a little bit different here, but still. Inside the audience chamber was more of these suits, all along the edge of the room to the throne room, fencing the golden threaded carpet. The throne that the empty armor guarded was dull gray steel, like they repurposed a suit of armor into a chair. A cushion was affixed with rivets. It looked extremely uncomfortable. There wasn't much other furnishings, besides some bits and pieces, with marks of allied nations, and crests of knight orders. It was like someone threw some stuff together, because it looked tough and called it a day. Just some spiky swords and things everywhere. It looked super cool. Even so, the sense of being watched by all these helmets was fairly intimidating. Reese would give it all 4 stars, downranked by the lack of an actual king. 4 stars? Is he talking like 4 out of 10? Because 4 out of 5 is like, okay, after everything you just explained, it doesn't sound like a very good room or presentation. So it's got to be out of 10. It's got to be 10 stars because I don't see. But usually whenever you use stars, it's usually 5. So that's a really good ranking there. Like he pulled an IGN like, this is terrible. This is all bad. This is horrible. 4 out of 5. Like what? His Highness, the first prince of the King Dragon realm, Kirkland von King Dragon. The guy on the throne was about Reese's age, young with blonde hair and wispy beard. He was the first prince of the King Dragon kingdom. He would one day be king, extremely intelligent and politically astute. When the king was absent, he handled affairs of the state in his father's stead. Still, when Reese dropped the name of the Austrian kingdom, he requested an audience with the actual king. It was possible they didn't respect Reese enough. They may have dismissed him as an interloper, just an unaligned nobody that they can get away with not presenting the actual king. Reese knelt and kept his head down, awaiting for the prince. Rise and state your name. It is an honor to meet you, your highness. I'm Reese Greyrat, follower of Dragon God Orsted. I trust I find you well. Oh, were you not the one that vanquished the water god Rada, then alone turned back hordes that threatened Sharon, Reese Greyrat? Actually, water god Rada was my master, and I wasn't alone against the army. My companions and I fought alongside the soldiers of Fort Karan to stop them. Ah, an honest man to boot. Surely you do not dispute, however, that you were involved in the death of the water god Rada and North Emperor Aber. I don't deny that, your highness. In the King Dragon realm, we place nobility above rank and status. We value those that achieve great things, such as you, for instance. Though they may lack social standing, I appreciate you saying so. Yeah, it was kind of odd that he kind of noted here, water god Rada was my master. It's like, yeah, I get what he's saying, like, no, the whole death of water god Rada, that was my master that did that. But it almost like, the way that it's wrote, it's like, actually, water god Rada was my master. Okay, that's a weird thing to state. While Reese thought they were being disrespectful, the seemed the prince was surprisingly well disposed towards him. Still, he figured that it was due to mentioning the Austria kingdom. First, I must apologize. My father, His Majesty King Stelvio von King Dragon, 33rd ruler of the King Dragon realm, has taken ill. Thus, I am here, leading in his stead. Please, think nothing of it, your highness. So he was sick. Reese figured it was all fine then. It's like, oh, he was sick. All right, so they're not snuffing me. Now, I was told that you have something to say that will be worth my while. I do not often get to hear from people like you. Or, to rephrase, I have never known a man like you to come to me without some purpose. Yes, your highness. Wait, don't say it. Let me guess. Kirkland stroked his chin, regarding Rudius with genuine interest, as a cerebral fellow, with self-confidence to spare, like a man assured of his own considerable ability, and that he could see into others too. He wasn't wrong. Over the next few decades, he would build up the King Dragon realm into a nation, to match and even rival the Austria kingdom. His political acumen outmatched even Ariel's, to be blunt. A very important individual, apparently, which kind of bugs me what happens later on, like how much he connects to the actual king. It's like, yeah, I kind of like that guy more. But again, that kind of goes back to the whole pack situation. It's like there's a lot of expectations for all of these different princes, and they're going to be so amazing, and then cut short. Yep, never mind. Kirkland, along with his retainers he surrounded himself with, were all exceptional. Unfortunately, there was also sadness awaiting him in the future, a broken heart. When he attended the coronation in the Osfer Kingdom as ambassador, he'd been smitten with Ariel at first sight. He would have many more chances to visit the kingdom, but at the age of about 25, he would confess his love and be flat out rejected. He hadn't been turned down yet, so as of now, he'd be advocating for friendship with Osfer Kingdom. Yeah, makes sense why this guy immediately jumped to want to talk to Rudius. Oh, so you have some information about Osfer Kingdom? I'm surprised that he can go deep into Ariel, so I'm guessing he's keeping himself in check, I guess. But yeah, this dude's totally gonna bag Ariel. Even if what Orchid sees that this guy is gonna fail, it's like, no, I don't know. I can see this being another change in the future, that this guy managed to bag him. But again, that's the question mark. How does this world handle something like that? If this guy is falling in love with Ariel, what if he did propose marriage with Ariel? How would that work out? They're so far away, and they both run their own. He's going to eventually become king. Yes, technically he could get married off to Ariel before he becomes king, and thus the throne would go to the next prince or whatever. But that does make you kind of question, if he was king and he did fall in love with Ariel, and Ariel did accept his proposal, how would they even have a relationship? How would they even do that? You're not looking for an appointment. That much is sure. I believe you're close to Queen Ariel of Osra. So if it was what you wanted, you'd be better off served going there. She would be amenable to give you more than a mere government appointment. I dare say she'd grant you a title. How am I doing? All true, your highness. What could bring a man such as yourself to our door, seeking favor? Well, no, there's a thought. There has been a strange rumor in the streets of late. Remind me of it, Shaggle. One of the knights at the prince's side looked up. He had a face of a small-time crook and wore same armor as Randolph. Rumor has that Rudius Greyrat is appealing to the rulers of all the different lands in preparation for resurrection of Laplace some 80 years hence. Rudius was told that he was quarter elf and spoke rough, but this guy's ears were rounded, and he spoke like a noble at court. Maybe it was due to him addressing royalty. The Pope and Millis knew all this. You couldn't underestimate the information networks within nations. Yeah, that's kind of a given. It's not like this guy's gonna talk all rough and everything like he was before in the presence of a prince. Even though I really do get a kick out of the power dynamics between Shagall and this royalty. Oh, that was it. And as part of your appeals, you're placing branches of your own organization in each of those countries, then using them to do business. Am I wrong? You are not, your highness. He wasn't wrong, but Reese felt like things were getting a bit off track. It's like, yeah, he's kind of following, he knows the information, and he's kind of going down this rabbit hole, but that's the obvious choice. The prince had a smug grin of satisfaction. If it weren't for Geese, that would have been Reese's plan. Only this time, things were different. Still, the prince was pleased with himself, so Reese felt like contradicting him might make him grumpy. Not that a part of Rudius didn't want to do that. I kind of want to smack that grin off his face by telling him he's wrong. You came all the way here to seek permission for something you could have easily done without my leave. I admire that attitude. However, if I were to immediately grant your request, it would reflect poorly on the dignity of my country. We cannot have a senseless mob banging on our door because they think the royal family will grant them anything they ask of us. As such, I impose a condition upon you. What is it? The prince looked suspiciously at Reese's raised hand. They were getting off track, and Reese had to do something. It's like, okay, stop. I have to interject here. Excuse the interruption, your highness. Everything you said was true, but today I'm here for a slightly different reason. Oh, it's about Lady Benedict's child. Reese watched the expression on the prince's face change along with his demeanor. My friend Randolph tells me that Lady Benedict's child, that Lord Pax II, is regarded as an unwanted annoyance, and that there's some that seek to do away with him. What of it? With his mother being what she is, he is of no political use. Why should the King Dragon Realm support the life of one who will only encumber us? What about Lord Randolph? If the child is killed, he won't stay here. The King Dragon Realm is not so feeble that we could be swayed by the strength of one man. You've come before me today, then, to ask that I spare the child's life? That's very telling. I'm sorry, that's very telling. I mean, yes, granted, the moment that he brings up Benedict and the child, their demeanor changes. Like, immediately it's like, oh, that's what he's here for. Oh, that. But still, like, what he's saying here is that, yes, you're here to make me have to deal with this situation. There is a side of it that could just simply be they know what's going on with Benedict, but they don't care. Like, I'm not going to give any headspace to that whole situation because I don't care if she lives or dies. That's just not my problem. We're busy dealing with all this crap. I don't care about this. But yes, everything here is sort of confirming what Rudius was suspecting. This idea that these people are perfectly willing to go, here, take her, get out of the way. We don't care. We don't want to deal with this. Or additionally, what they were saying about the idea of let's get rid of her so that it doesn't become a problem. They're confirming it right here, which is kind of sad to have Shaghal right there, who again is very connected to Randolph, not wanting to speak up in the situation. Eventually he does. Eventually it does come to a point where it does feel like Shaghal's like, yes, that's perfect. Let me get involved here because this is perfect. This is exactly how I can keep Randolph here, because you're about to push him out with this whole situation, and I've been wondering how to deal with the situation. Reese just came in with the key card I needed. No, I wasn't thinking of sparing him. It was more like, if you have no use of him, would you give him to me? The prince snorted with laughter, then looked to Shaghal. This is interesting because he brings this up right here. Give him to me. And I immediately thought when Rudius said this, if things go well, this meant that Rudius wanted to take Benedict and Pax somewhere else. And my assumption was going to be, okay, take them to Shariah. Take them somewhere else. Take them to Asura Kingdom. That would be interesting as well. Take them there and have them hidden away in the palace with nobody knowing that they're there. There was plenty of places they could take her that she'd be much more safe. Away from this entire conflict, away from the King Dragon realm completely. Take them somewhere else. I don't care where. But it's interesting that later on, it doesn't really imply that they're moving them. Like, they're leaving them there. Yeah, there was a side of me that was like, is Rudius going to adopt Pax? Is Rudius going to adopt Pax? We're going to have Benedict joining the Grey Rat family. My conclusion that my brain got to at this point was, is he possibly going to take them and have them live with Zenoba? The prince snored with laughter, then looked to Shaghal. Did you hear that, Shaghal? I've already forgotten Shaghal's voice. I did, Your Highness, with these very ears. The prince stamped his foot and leaned forward to glare at Rudius. Damn. He rested his elbow on his knees, attitude once again changing. Were these his true colors? Roos wouldn't get freaked out. Pegasus was way more majesty than this guy. The government of the King Dragon realm was in the hands of Orsid Corporation. He's like, I got this. Tell me then, Roos Grey Rat, how would that proposal serve the King Dragon realm? Allow me to explain. First, I'm told that, ever since the death of the former king, a vassal state of the King Dragon realm has been under assault by 3 other nations from the conflict zone to the north. These vassal states may be under your domain, but they are still your vassals, and thus you have to support them. The King Dragon realm was badly affected by this war breaking out in the middle of your domestic unrest, and I expect that you're stretched thin trying to respond. What is your point? I can put it into it all. I can fix it all. Ariel was the one driving that war. She got on riled up countries that had long hated the King Dragon realm, and now she was selling them weapons. Not only that, but she was also looking over their shoulders and applying pressure to make sure they kept the war going. The Asura Kingdom had deep coffers. Rudius had relied on them many times, but that gold didn't grow on trees. They played dirty when necessary. The Kingdom of Asura didn't regard this any more seriously than light harassment, so all Rudius had to do was ask to cut it off at the source. Again, it really does kind of feel like she doesn't want to have a war, but really just kind of keep poking them while they do their own thing. Just really keeping them busy. Just kind of like a gamer's term here. Just kind of kite them around in a circle for a little bit. Throw something just to keep the aggro going, essentially. Keep the aggro alive and keep running. One more thing, Your Highness. When the former king died, you took out a loan from the Mills Church because you were in urgent need of cash, correct? Even though you paid off the loan, you still allow their nightly orders to sojourn here to this day. Their high-handed evangelizing is causing a bit of upset, from what I hear. What? You can put a stop to that too? I can. That's interesting. I don't know. There's a side of me that's kind of like, I was suspecting this was going to be a lot more than this. Really was. Now, it's still technically the same thing. My whole point that I was making when they first brought up the Mills Night orders being here causing problems, my question mark was, why is the King Dragon Realm not doing anything about it? Why are they not pushing back? Why are the guards ignoring the whole situation? Here it's implying that, yes, they took out this big loan, and so they kind of owe them a favor. Even though they paid it off, they still kind of owe them a favor, and they don't want to be mean about it. But it's like, if it's paid off, why are you not pushing back? You don't owe them anything at the point of paying it back. Unless you're just trying to keep that door open in case something else happens, that they're going to be more favorable to give you another loan. Allowing that to keep going, it does kind of seem odd. So this does feel a little bit off in the idea of like, now I know that you're also having this issue with this, I can stop that. Yeah, we were trying to figure out how to stop it. I don't know, tell them to stop. It just seems weird that it's been paid off. It would make sense if it wasn't paid off. And even Reese says here in a minute that it's kind of difficult if it wasn't paid off. But it still feels weird that they're allowing them to run amok when they don't really owe them anything anymore. But yes, this kind of does answer the question of why it started to begin with, was the idea that they just took a loan, and that makes sense. Right after the king's death, they're going to be a little bit struggling, and so they needed a little bit extra cash in order to handle some situations. If he was still in debt, Rudeus's hands would have been tied. The knight's behavior was a little more than Millis' own way of harassing the King Dragon Realm. Yeah, and this makes more sense to me. Like I was saying earlier, there's another side to it, which is it's not the loan. The loan has nothing to do with it, really, in the end. It goes back to my theory, is that similar to Asura, they're also punching them while they're still trying to catch their breath. They also want to cause problems. All Reese had to do was put in a word to the Blessed Child or the Pope. Why the Blessed Child? Again, the Blessed Child has no power. Unless he's thinking that telling the Blessed Child, they'll talk to the Cardinalist. So he's going to talk to the Pope and the Blessed Child proxy to the Cardinalist. And then the Knight's Order should return to their own country right away. I'd be curious if they would completely return. They might tell them to stop, but I don't think that they would leave. Rudeus would owe the Pope a favor, but that wasn't a problem. Times like these were why Rudeus maintained that connection. In addition, if, in the future, any difficulties arise between Lord Pax II and the Kingdom of Sharon, I will take full responsibility for it. Very interesting. So this is obviously the second part. The first part, again, is that there's people coming after to take out Benedict and Pax in order to remove that problem. We need to get rid of this issue so that when the day comes that Sharon does possibly get back on their feet, they do come for this child, that's alleviated. That question mark as to if we were weak enough that we'd give it up or not give it up and cause conflict is gone. That's interesting because, yeah, that is the second part. There's two parts to this. Let's snuff it out now rather than it become an issue later. Reese has already asked, don't do that anymore. The second part is, what do they do when Sharon does come back for them if they get back on their feet? Let me handle it. I will go down, he's like saying right here, if it come to that, me and Zenobia and Randolph, we'll go down there and we'll handle the situation. We'll fix things quick. It turned into the battle to avenge Pax in no time. It's just going to end up taking out the leadership in Sharon. What say you, Your Highness? Reese put forward his proposals. That would be plenty to persuade him. The benefit to leaving the nuisance child alive. What's in this for you? I can't reveal their name, but someone in Sword Orsted's inner circle cares deeply about Lady Benedict and Lord Pax II. I intend to use this as a bargaining chip with him. Those of us who serve the Dragon God are all one under Sir Orsted, but strengthening such friendships is nevertheless important. The prince didn't look satisfied. He had one scary glare. Then Shaghal threw Rudeus a lifeline. Again, this is something that Shaghal wants. He's like, I don't want to lose Randolph, and this boy is serving up the perfect dish for me to grab this. I need to jump in on this situation. I think it's a good offer. Sir Rudeus has the ear of both Ostra Kingdom and the Holy Country of Millis. We could therefore assume he is trustworthy. Our own plans to deal with the issues he has raised are already in place, so the benefit he proposes may be minimal. But from what I hear, he knows the weaknesses of King Ariel and the Blessed Child of Millis. Building a relationship with someone well connected as Sir Rudeus will benefit us. At present, we are trying to replace the great loss with a smaller one, so any benefit will. Shaghal, be silent. I understand the benefits. Rudeus didn't know what the hang-up was. It's like we're all friends, right? It's like Reese is there with a handout. We're gonna shake hands, right? Reach out, come on. Why is this difficult? But this answers my thing earlier with the whole thing about the Millis. Okay, why is the Millis a problem here? Why are you guys allowing the Millis Knight Orders to do this stuff? If you've already paid them off, why aren't you just kicking them out? Why aren't you telling them to at least stop? Shaghal's saying we already have things lined up. Shaghal's saying everything that we have listed so far, everything that Rudeus is trying to fix here with, Benedict, with the vassal states, the invasions, with Millis, we already have it. We're not a stupid country that can't figure this stuff out ourselves. Shaghal's saying right here, everything Rudeus is providing us right now, we don't need him. Rudeus is presenting here, we got it all figured out. We have things in place. I'm building up my army. I'll mess them up. These people want to invade, I'll mess them up. The Millis Knight Orders causing problem, we paid them off. We'll kick them out. Shaghal's saying, we got this figured out. But if he can fix this stuff, let him. It'll be a little benefit to us, but he has the connections that we want. It's almost implying the idea of what Rudeus is presenting here isn't a resolve for these other issues. It's just connections. It's very cool. I like the idea that this kingdom is not just in a panic state that needs Rudeus to save it. We got it figured out already. And I do think this is a lot to do. Yes, they already know who Rudeus is. They know what connections he has and everything. But I think a lot of this might be both, again, Shaghal wanting to keep Randolph around, but also probably through Randolph, he's been told to trust Rudeus. What I don't like is his manner. He speaks as though he holds us in the palm of his hand. Rhys felt like he should have probably bowed and scraped a little bit more. He must have lorded over them a bit. Hitting a right balance was tricky. Yeah, again, like I said, you're talking as if you're offering all the fixes for something they already have. It's almost like talking down to them. Again, Chagall said, we have fixes for all this stuff already. My distaste, however, does not mean I want to reject your offer. The fate of Benedict's child ought to be decided by Parliament. I can hardly make a unilateral decision on the sudden offer of an outsider. But Your Highness, you explained to Parliament that the plan was a last resort, didn't you? Again, right there, he's basically right in front of Rudius. Right in front of Rudius. He's in the room, and Rudius even points this out later on. In the room, Rudius is sitting there, and Chagall's saying to the prince the plan to give up Benedict. It's like, yeah, you were going to take him out, right? If the question is whether you'll spare the life of the child, who may cause strife in the future, or lose the death god now, Parliament prefers the first option. So yeah, right there, the Parliament is okay with sparing the child. Again, they're debating this. They're planning that they want to spare the child because they don't want to lose the death god. Should a better option present itself, however, there'd be nothing remiss in you taking it. Again, they're going to be perfectly fine with this because if the end result is still don't lose the death god, this works. They were going to spare it already, and Rudius is offering this whole idea to fix these other issues while still retaining the death god. I'm not talking about that. Not that at all. My concern here is for safeguarding the position and the dignity of the King Dragon Realm. If other nations see my father's rule as indecisive, or if it should appear thus to the people, it may even call into question the loyalty of our retainers. The prince was concerned about his father's, rather the country's prestige. It was admirable for someone so young, but Rudius felt improper that they're having this conversation in front of him. Chagall seemed to be on Rudius' side. It helped that he was friends with Randolph, it seemed. Every point he made supported Rudius' position. As the prince mused, Rudius didn't mind them bringing others into the decision. They could include the sick king or the prime minister. They realized at that point that it was a generous offer. Even if they still refused him, Rudius had another plan ready to go. He'd already acquired all the central players' personal information, including preferences and weaknesses. Rudius had everything to lead them by the nose. Yeah, Rudius is like, all these guys are entering the room. He's like, oh, so that's that guy? Yeah, he likes, I know what his, he likes Ponzu just like me. I'll show him the holy relic. He'll be buddy with me. Suddenly, a new voice called out. What did I tell you? See, I had this stupid pompous voice for this guy, and now it's gonna be all dumb. Everybody was like, why did you have that dumb pompous voice? Because it still technically kind of works. I can just kind of tone down the pompousness of it. It's still the same voice. He was technically playing a character. What did I tell you? Everyone looked over to see a man emerging from a door off to the side behind the throne. He was roughly 40, blonde hair, looking bone-tired. He kind of reminded Rudius of Ariel's older brother. No, Rudius met someone similar to him, Vio Pompadour. But this man was dressed in incredible finery and had a king's crown on his head. This isn't someone you want to make an enemy of. Your Majesty. Here was His Majesty, King Stelvio von King Dragon, 33rd ruler of the King Dragon Realm. Well played, King. Well played. Yeah, this is one of those moments where suddenly you realize who was playing it in whose hand. Like they were mentioning earlier, this idea of giving that air off that Rudius had them in the palm of his hand. No. The king had Rudius in the palm of his hand, who had the prince in his hand. Listen, Kirk, we can't openly make enemies of the Osprey Kingdom until we restored order to the conflict zone. It's public knowledge that Rudius is friendly with Queen Ariel. If we accept this proposal and enter into a collaborative relationship with the dragon god Orsted, the Osprey Kingdom will be hard-pressed to pull this kind of trick again. This is all for the sake of our country. Stelvio walked to the throne as he spoke, then changed places with the prince. Despite that decisive speech, he didn't exactly radiate competence. If anything, he was a picture of mediocrity. All right, Sir Rudius. Your Majesty, we accept your offer. With that, the king just said it. He might have already deliberated to be so decisive, probably while he sat there dining with Rudius and mentioning rumors. Maybe it was a factor on why he concealed his true identity, to get closer to Rudius after finding out he was in town. It has happened that there had been someone else who remained unconvinced. Maybe this whole scene was a setup in order to convince him. Very interesting. Yeah, I can totally see it. I can totally see that, yes, the king found out that Rudius was there, probably through Chagall, through Randolph. Somebody tipped him off that he was there. This guy knows, again, the queen of the Osprey Kingdom, knows the dragon god Orsted. He's going around making massive amounts of connections. He's got a lot of people backing him, and now he's in our kingdom. And yes, based on that whole time that he spent with Rudius, this guy obviously loves the nation. He loves this kingdom, and he wants to do really good for it. If he sees that it's got a lot of issues, and Rudius has the way of fixing it, I want to make connection with him. But he wanted to figure him out first. And yes, as it implies here, that over time, probably through talking with Rudius, he found that fix, but it probably wasn't working out for the prince. So he wanted his son to see if he can figure it out as well. Yeah, kind of a test for his son, which is kind of cool. Thank you, your majesty. Rudius bowed his head. That's enough. Rise. As Rudius rose, the king showed a wry smile. There was no majesty here. This is a tired man and his crooked smile. This is all that remains of the King Dragon realm. We are locked into unending unrest, thanks to an unwavering and undignified king. I know you have your battles coming up in 80 years hence, and I regret that we may offer but little assistance. Not at all. Would you mind if I asked you something, though? What is it? What was with that act? The king gave the same tired smile. I merely wish to learn more about you. Me? What you would say and do when we sat beside one another as equals. Rather than me up here and you down there, I want to know whether you were someone worthy of trust. I don't know of a better test. Very interesting. It's kind of curious that this entire chapter opens up with that concept. Now, I'm probably off base here, but it's just, this came to my head the moment I read that line. Rudius had learned something over the past few years. Amongst equals, you still had to demonstrate your authority. If you don't, big organizations will walk all over you. This line is in reference to talking about using the Ashvaran's power to gain authority and be able to talk to the King Dragon realm. And this is probably a statement to the king himself in the idea that what did the king do? He didn't flex his authority in order to learn more about Rudius and to get close to Rudius. He stood on equal ground with him. Rudius right here is saying, among equals, you have to flex yourself a bit. And again, that's to the idea of getting some authority in order to talk to the King Dragon realm and make demands. But what did the king do? I brought myself to be equal with you in order to learn more about you. It is sort of an interesting kind of contrast here. And again, it's just what jumped in my head the moment I read that line. I'm like, wow, it kind of opened up differently for Rudius in this chapter. This was who the king really was. Rudius remembered what Orsted told him. King Stelvio's reign was not a long one. In less than a decade, he would fall gravely ill and abdicate the throne to his son. After Kirkland became king, the King Dragon realm would make a staggering rapid progress. That would be the true beginning of the King Dragon realm. Stelvio was a pit stop on the way to that worthwhile destination. That was why he hadn't stuck in Rudius' memory. Funny though, right now Rudius was more interested in the king than Shagal and Kirkland. In his mind's eye, Rudius kept seeing Stelvio's face from the other day. He looked so happy, so proud. I love this. This is kind of an interesting kind of moment where Rudius is going, yeah, I got all this information about the kingdom itself, and he's barely a blip in it, because it's all going to be handed off to Kirkland, and it's going to be, again, supported by Shagal. Those are the people that are going to take off with this. This is the point in which the King Dragon realm becomes something important in the future, is when he steps up. It's kind of like the whole thing with Pax. Pax was what was going to take the Sharon Kingdom and take off with it, advance it. They were going to move forward because he's going to basically make it a republic. Here, Rudius is saying, I kind of want to talk to the king more. These are the important individuals. Again, Kirkland's already proven that he's super smart. This guy is looking at Rudius and going, yeah, I know exactly what you're doing. He's a brilliant mind. They're making it out like this Kirkland boy is super smart, and he's going to take this kingdom places. But he just likes this guy because he looked like he enjoyed this country. He had that smile. He looked relatable. He came to me on equal terms. He came down off his throne and broke bread with me, basically. That's the guy I want to talk to more. And it does kind of suck the fact that he's going to fall gravely ill in less than a decade and pass off the throne. Now, it is weird because what is this future they're talking about? Orsted sees a future where Stelvio's king, he will get sick within a decade, and he's going to pass off the kingdom to Kirkland, who's going to take it places. In this current timeline, Orsted went into that kingdom and killed the current king, which passed it off to Stelvio. It just seems odd that the former king was dead at this point. Now, it could be that because of the many hundreds of loops that Orsted has gone through, one of them, the king of the King Dragon realm, the former king, had died, and Stelvio took over, and then eventually got ill and passed it off to Kirkland. It just seems odd there is a future where Stelvio was even king, because you would think without Orsted coming in and donating the guy, the former king would still be in power, and that Stelvio would die not being the king. So that seems a little weird. And again, I can probably just say that's because he's seen hundreds of possibilities of a future, And one of them, the former king, had passed away and Stelvio took over. Well, I think, that's great. Rudius had a hunch that Stelvio never wanted to be king, or even assume the slightest aptitude for it. Truly, he had neither aptitude nor talent. Still, he sat on the throne, surrounded by suits of armor. When he sat there, he had to play his part. As long as he lived, he put everything into being king, never losing his principles, and always doing what he could while those around him lent support. He'd do that into the future, act the part of king. For the sake of his beloved country, he'd do his best. Great, isn't it? You're a little overfamiliar, Rudius Greyrat. My apologies, Your Majesty. He was the kind of person who wouldn't leave any mark on the world. Continuing to associate with him probably wouldn't reap Rudius any great benefits. And given your etiquette could use a little help, let me give you a friendly word of advice and pass it on to the former Prince Zenobia, your friend who's so concerned about Lord Pax II. Yes? Before you seek audience with the rulers of a country, learn their faces, even if they're not much to look at. I'll do my best. Even as Rudius grimaced in embarrassment at the king's advice, he wanted to be his friend while he was still alive. God damn. Why is like a random gut punch right here? Rudius is like, I kind of want to be this dude's friend, even if he's not going to be around for a while, even if he's not a great benefit to me. Again, this is kind of a nice little chill point here, and I know this is kind of one of those silly moments of Rudius overthinking something. I think this is big. Again, for the last few volumes, it's been nothing but Rudius making connections, building army, making connections, building mercenary bands, do what Orsted wants me to do. Orsted's got another job. Where's the servants of the man gods? Where's the disciples? We gotta take down the disciples. I gotta constantly be creating these opposites to what the man god's doing. What do I do next? What connections can I make? I gotta build up, build up, build up. Everything he's doing is to build these building blocks to this goal. This is one of these moments where he's going, I know this guy is not gonna benefit me at all, but I want to be his friend. I want to connect to this guy. I won't get anything out of it. I just want to be his friend. This guy seems like a cool dude. This guy doesn't seem like your typical king. He just loves his nation. And he showed me how much he loves his nation. I respect that. But yes, the fact that we see a picture of this dude tells me he's probably going to be around for a while. My immediate thought here was, get this dude cured. Now, it might be a bad thing to do that. It might be to the benefit of Orsted that he does pass off this to Kirkland, and that Kirkland takes it to great places. Stelvio might be a negative if he stays on the throne. But yeah, my thought process here was, what makes him ill? Get this dude better. Help this dude out. Or just at least wait until he passes the throne off, and then come in there with some, high-level healing magic and heal him. Don't know what's actually illing him, so don't know if it'll actually work, but still. Rudius. You want to be his friend while he's still alive. Keep him alive. Keep him alive. But yeah, he looks like a cool dude. I liked him. I like Vio. Even though I gave him a really dorky, pompous voice, I like Vio. Lil Pax's safety was secured. As Benedict was still part of the royal family, the King Dragon realm took it upon itself to guarantee their safety. Benedict was temporarily freed from the fear that dogged her, and Randolph looked like a cat that had gotten the cream. Randolph's like, got him. Got him. All my puppeteering. That's the other thing there. It's like, yes, the king had Rudius in the palm of his hand, but it's also like between there is Randolph puppeteering the king, puppeteering Rudius, puppeteering the king. It just constantly goes. The threat to the King Dragon realm had been subdued for the time being, and they kept Randolph, so there was plenty to celebrate. Rudius even got some wanted notices put out on Geese. The mercenary company set up would have to wait for another day, but Rudius figured the king would allow it. Yeah, I'd assume that he'd just get onto it. He managed to establish some good relations to the King Dragon realm, if only it hadn't been another arsonist putting out his own fires type situation again. I technically am a part of getting her on the throne over there, and that she's causing these problems, so it's technically my fault. And yes, I was technically involved with that whole thing in Sharon. You really did help me out. I thought I was going to have to burn the King Dragon realm to the ground and leave with the queen. Orsted had told Rudius that Randolph didn't have power to do that. But it didn't mean that he wouldn't have tried. Exactly. If it's the good graces of His Majesty you're after, I'm afraid I won't be of any use to you. A shame. I so wanted to be your go-to fellow in the King Dragon realm. This is no good. How am I supposed to repay my debt to you now? Yeah, that's the funny thing. That's like the whole thing that Randolph was doing this. Like, he was trying to rope Rudius into this by saying, I'll be your connections here. I'm not going to fight by your side, but at least you'll have connections here. That's good, right? You want that, right? Damn it, now he's got connection to the king himself. What the hell am I going to do? Now that the threat to Pax is gone, I'd be happy to have you fight at my side. Just because no one's targeting him, we can't say for sure. He's in no danger. You're one to talk after starting me on that goose chase. Rudius had a hunch that Randolph told Stelvio he was in the King Dragon realm. He might have even nudged him to inform all their problems. Exactly. Though, maybe that was a bit paranoid. Still, Ruiz had his suspicions. The look on his face was pretty much as good as a full confession. Randolph, you could see that in Randolph's face. But again, this is that point where I was kind of questioning, why don't you just take her out of there? Like, if this is the concern, you could basically tell Randolph right here, hey, I'm going to need your help eventually. What we do is when we do go to face off against the Man God and Geese and all them, can I take Benedict and put her somewhere safe, like, say, Pettigoose's castle? I can get her on Pettigoose. Well, that would be difficult because she's technically part demon. Damn it! There goes that idea. At least take her to his place. That would be fine. Away from all these assassins. By the time everything is completed with the fight, they ain't going to be able to get up there to try to attack her. Whatever can you mean? I certainly cannot predict how His Majesty will act. In the end, Rhys couldn't rely on Randolph's strength against Geese, but it wasn't the end of the world.
Yes, Sir Randolph's place is without a doubt here with Lady Benedict and the little prince.
Zenobia had been there at their side while Rhys was talking to the king. He would have taken action if things went south.
Thank you, and so I will remain. Having said that, you must allow me to express my gratitude, even if it's only a gesture. My too cool for gratitude reputation shall follow me to the next life at this rate. On which note, Sir Rudius, I think you're acquainted with the Demon World's great emperor, Kishirika Kishidishu.
That's right. I've run into her a couple times.
I suggest hunting her down first.
Randolph had a point. Kishirika had a demon eye, similar to the Eye of Distant Sight. Roxy had used her power to search for Zenith. She could find Geese's whereabouts, or at least narrow down the options a lot. Rhys wondered why he didn't think of that before, but he wasn't sure if they could trust her 100%.
She may demand some recompense, but show her this ring and say that Randolph asks it of her. Then she should hear you out, even if the request is a little unreasonable.
Oh, sounds good. I accept. Randolph passed him a white ring. It was a creepy little thing, presumably crafted from some sort of bone. It looked cursed, but Rudius put it on anyways. Why would you put it on? Why would you put it on? Just stick it in your pocket or something. Oh, thank you. This looks cursed. Like, have we never read a single, like, story about this where you put on the cursed ring and then something bad happens? After Randolph's letter of introduction proved pretty useless, Rhys wasn't sure how effective this ring would be. But Randolph, whatever else he was, took his obligations seriously. So, this would do for now. Yeah, honestly, I agree. Why not think about the idea that technically Kishirika could use her sight to be able to find Geese? But the question there really remains is, could possibly Geese have some sort of way of blocking that? What I mean is, Orchid has a way of blocking the vision of the Man God. What's to say there's not an opposite effect here as well? That there would be something in play that would prevent Kishirika from being able to see Geese. Now, that's a massive assumption there, but still. But yeah, that technically makes sense. I don't think that I ever really kind of considered that possibility that, yes, back here, Roxy, when she was with Kishirika, she had Kishirika look to try to find Zenith. And sure enough, well, she went through and looked for a lot of people. She was specifically, the question mark was to look for Ruiz's family. So she was looking around for everybody. She was able to locate the vicinity of where Zenith was, but she wasn't able to see her very clearly. But yeah, definitely a good way to find where Geese is at. The problem there is that once you find Geese, are you going to be able to get to there quickly before he gets onto another teleporter that Rhys doesn't know about and jump somewhere else? But no, maybe he can drag her around with him for a little bit. You know, follow me as we go around to try to find him, and in case he does jump on another teleporter, we can use the site again to try to find out where he went. The ring, I'm assuming, is of that one demon king. They were talking about this one demon that they were using their bones to craft things with. And I wonder if that bone is from that. It was one that we're talking about, the blacksmith. That the blacksmith had used the bones or whatever. It's been a long time, so I remember that. That's just the first thing that popped in my mind. You're talking about bones and it looking creepy. That's a neat thought that came to my mind.
I'm just happy Pax is safe. Now Lady Benedict can give all of her attention to raise her child.
Benedict didn't reply. Was she still scared of him? When her eyes met Zenoba's, her lips pursed. The sound that came out of her was almost too small to hear, and as her voice persisted, she stammered over the unfamiliar words. Thank you. I am very grateful for your assistance. She spoke from the heart, even with all the stuttering. Zenova smiled, then clapped his hands together, like he'd just remembered something.
Oh yes, I almost forgot. Julie.
This part got me. Damn it, Pax. Standing behind him, Julie nodded, lowered her pack, and pulled out a box. It was painted white and decorated like a fanciful building. Rhys had seen this somewhere before. It was like the royal palace in Sharon. You knew immediately where this was going. Julie opened the box,
Inside, decorated like a canopied bed. In the bed lay a figurine. "Oh," Benedict said softly. "I had made it for this day. I hope you will accept it." Benedict slowly reached out and picked up the figurine and gazed at it, wide-eyed. It was short and blonde, a bit on the plump side. The glance enough was to see that it was him, a figurine of Pax. "As his reign was short, I believe there are no portraits. I made it from memory. Julie here did the actual crafting." Benedict began to cry, fat tears running down her cheeks. She looked at the figurine, trembling all over and sobbing. She gave a wet sniff to pull herself together and turned to face Zenoba. "I'll treasure it," she said, cradling her son in one arm and Pax's figure in the other. Oh, the image got me so bad. Oh my gosh. I hate Pax. But this is like, again, special to all of them. It's Zenoba the bro. It's Benedict, who really is kind of just stuck in this whole situation. Oh, it's just, oof, big gut punch. "I'm so glad to hear that. But nothing material is indestructible. When it becomes damaged, send word to me, and I shall come to repair it at once." "I will," Benedict said with a small nod. Ruiz had to hold back tears. Zenoba had done good. Now, I have to admit that after, like, getting a little bit teary-eyed reading this whole segment, a stupid joke jumped in my head. I have to say it. I have to say the joke. And warning to anybody, if you don't like offensive jokes, just jump forward a little bit, or at least mute for a couple seconds here. "But nothing is indestructible. When it becomes damaged, send word to me, and I shall repair it at once." Yeah, don't drop it. We don't need a reenactment of Pax's death. Don't drop the figure. We don't need a reenactment of Pax's death. I could just see Rias off to the side going, "Yeah, don't drop it. Oh, don't. Oh, keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut." "If it turns into a pancake, contact me. I'll fix it. I couldn't fix it when he fell last time, but I can now." Oh, gosh, Andrew, shut up. Moving on. Moving on. Bad Andrew. Reese decided to leave Aisha, Zenoba, and Julie in the King Dragon realm while he mediated things between Ashra and Milis. Zenoba was a busy guy, with Zenoba's store expanding and the magic armor, but he was a reliable guy, and Ruiz would be relying on him more in the future. "Well, Zenoba, I better be going."
"Very well, Master Rudius. The rest is safe in my hands."
"All right, I'll be off then. Farewell, Lord Rudius. May you have strength in battle." "You too, Randolph. Stay well." Rudius' time in the King Dragon realm had come to an end. Next stop, the Daemon continent. Here it goes. Rudius wasn't going to be looking for Kishirika. He didn't have time to go ask around for someone that could be anywhere, though he would keep an eye out for her. No, he had someone else to talk to there. The immortal Demon King, Etof Retov. Yeah, that's going to be... Again, I'm very curious as to what Rudius' plans are when he meets her. It's going to be very, very curious. But yeah, good chapter, though. I think everything around Vio, I'm going to call him Vio from now on. I think everything around Vio was very interesting. Seems like a really cool dude. And again, I really do hope that, and again, it kind of hints at it, the fact that they actually show this dude's picture. Like, why do they go out of the way to make a picture, an illustration for this guy? There was already 2 pictures in this chapter. Why would they have one specifically made for him? It kind of makes me think that this guy could be important or cool kind of ally later on. Maybe somebody that's going to get involved with Rudius in the future that will support him. Very curious. But yes, everything around Benedict right here was super heartwarming. Absolutely love this. Zenoba, best bro, coming in there with that was just like super good. Again, it goes to that whole point where the whole bust that he made about Paul for Norn. That's huge because, again, they don't have photos. They don't have pictures. They're not like us where we just pick up our phone, hit the button, take a picture. This is a place where your memories is all you really have. Unless you're king or royalty and you have all these portraits made of you, Paxton wasn't there long enough to do that. Now, it's kind of odd that as a prince, he didn't have at least a portrait made of him, but still, it goes like the whole thing with Norn and Paul. Just creating something that somebody can have an object to remember them by, that's huge. That she can now see him again. Yes, it's not perfect, but it's enough to keep that memory of him for her, which is super important. And to see how she's so broken up about it, it's just, just, again, gut punch, an absolute gut punch. And that picture was beautiful. The picture's beautiful. Benedict crying, son in the hands. He's much bigger than I thought he would be. That boy's grown. And little Julie, Julie's grown up so much too. Holy crap. But anyways, interlude, blue and red. Blue and red. I love this chapter so much. Obvious reasons. Roxy's involved. Roxy was home that day, drawing up a test for school. It was meant to be her day off, but she was the type of teacher who adjusted her lessons based on her students' comprehension of the material, meaning that she sometimes ended up making tests on her own time. So an actual teacher that does their job right. But additionally, there's also a side of this is almost her learning from her mistakes with Pax. Because again, Pax was like this whole case where she almost felt like he wasn't as good as Rudius in a lot of things. And yes, there's a lot of that having to do with her feeling that she was inadequate as being a teacher and all that kind of stuff. But still, shows a kind of growth in her. Suddenly, she became aware of the smell of something burning. Leaping from her chair, she opened the door. In the corridor outside her room, white smoke hung thicker still. Covering her mouth with her sleeve, she ran downstairs. By stroke of luck, no one else was home. Sylphie was out on a walk with the children. Usually the mothers took turn taking the children out on their walks. But today, Lilia and Zenith went with her. With Aisha gone as well, anyone who needed evacuation was already out. All the same, this was still their home, and it was Roxy's job to watch it. She'd be mortified if everyone returned back to find the house a smothering ruin. She had to put out the fire. Upon reaching the bottom of the stairs, she looked through various doors, all of which were left open, and no signs of the source of the smoke. She continued towards the kitchen, where she finally found it, but there was no flames. An unexpected figure loomed over the stove. She was a tall woman with long red hair twisted into a bun. She wore black undergarments that clung to the curves of her body. It was Eris. Eris trying to cook. It wasn't unexpected for Eris to be in the house. The real surprise here was finding her in the kitchen. As a rule, she never came in here. Yet today, in this shocking turn of events, here she was, her arms folded like always, as she glared at something on the stove that was belching up billows of thick smoke. Whatever it was had long since charred to a crisp, making it unidentifiable. Yeah, right here I was already questioning, when was this actually taking place? Because why is Eris here? She should be with Rudius. Roxy could just make out that it was roughly 20 centimeters long. Did she find a rat? We're still gonna bring this stuff up. It's like this whole idea of like she find a rat and she's just burning it. Rats. It was almost like she's briefly right here giving Eris a little bit of a way out right here. But still, it's kind of sad that Eris isn't allowed in the kitchen. Like they're just keeping her out of there. Rats were persona non grata in the Grey Rat household. The family rule was that if you found a rat, you kill it on sight. Burn the carcass while wearing gloves and a mask. Then take it out beyond the town's limits and dispose of its ashes. Rudius himself had established this rule. There had been something written about rats in the diary his future self had given him. He was particularly insistent that Roxy watched out for rats. He's still afraid of the rat at this point. He's protecting Roxy. He's protecting Roxy. Well, that means it's the same thing with Sylphie. Again, right now, she's pregnant right now. So there is a fear there that she could end up contracting something of the same effect. Again, their destinies, their fate, whatever, is just very kind of flimsy right now. Well, it wasn't as if she was a toddler shoving everything an arm's length in her mouth. But these were the orders they had, and so she kept an eye out, especially while she was pregnant. But vows made in the storms were soon forgotten, as they say. She'd been less vigilant lately, but surely Eris wouldn't burn a rat in the kitchen. Eek! Eris jumped slightly as she noticed Roxy. It was as if she'd been caught doing something she shouldn't have. Sneaking a bite to eat? No. Her stomach growled loudly. Roxy realized there was no one around here to make lunch, but Eris was training students, swordcraft, that afternoon, and thus could eat at the university's cafeteria. Why didn't you go to the school cafeteria? They're closed. The cook collapsed or something. Oh dear. This was unwelcome news, as Roxy planned to stop by there as well. She then pondered on what happened here. Pointing at the smoking lump, she inquired, "What's that?" "It's a roast." I think it's a touch overcooked. It's been a while since I cooked. Noting at a loss, Roxy immediately used water magic to put out the fire. Oh, Eris was going to protest, but then seeing the charred lump left behind, the corners of her mouth turned down. Poor Eris. Roxy rushed to open the back door and use wind magic to air things out. "You can't eat this." "I know." Eris scowled at Roxy, thinking she was in trouble, but Roxy wasn't angry. There was no need to be angry when she knew what happened. Eris hadn't started a fire either, so no damage was done. "Why don't I make us something? You can cook?" You know I was an adventurer, right? I can manage basic cooking." Roxy puffed out her skinny chest. Okay, thanks. Eris stepped back from the stove. "It'll be basic, though." The kitchen was Sylphie, Lilia, and Aisha's temple. There was no rule against anyone else using it. So even right there, it's pointing out that Eris is allowed to come in there. It's just, Eris herself probably doesn't want to go in there because she doesn't want to cause problems. Last time she did that, she was chopping up this gift that was given to Sylphie from Rudius. And so she's like, yeah, I'm going to break things. I'm going to stay out of here. But those three didn't look kindly upon anyone who messed it up. Probably mostly Aisha. Because again, Sylphie was being cool about it. It was Aisha that was throwing a fit. But those three didn't look kindly upon anyone who messed it up. By things like snacking on dinner ingredients, those available things for those that got hungry, like preserved foods and veggies. Roxy pulled from those supplies to make a soup. Chopping them up, she'd throw them in the water. It was a bit rough to really be called cooking, but Roxy was an ex-adventurer. She wouldn't turn up her nose to raw monster meat, so long as it was edible. Yeah, she had to do that in order to survive in the teleportation labyrinth. She's pretty used to eating, like, horrific stuff. It's like, even if she makes something terrible, it's like, I've eaten worse. It's like Ghislaine. Ghislaine's like, I've eaten crap, I could eat anything. She also found a loaf of bread, likely baked that morning. Everyone in the Grey Rat household but Rudius were avid bread eaters. That's got to be totally a Japanese thing, maybe because he just, like, prefers rice instead. Edis stood in the corner, watching Roxy work in silence. I didn't think you knew how to do this stuff. Everyone thinks that for some reason. It's quite hurtful, really. Neither can you, right, Edis? Edis pouted. I know how to start a fire and roast meat at least. I just messed it up this time. I see. But that's the same as most people, isn't it? Good point. Good W right here for Roxy. Like, that's everybody. Everybody's gonna mess things up every now and then. There wasn't any great difference between Edis and a majority of adventurers. However, in each party, there was usually one person who was best at frying up dried food and making soup. Roxy was by no means a natural, but she had traveled a lot by herself and picked it up as a necessity. Yeah, that was my thought here, is like, okay, yeah, she's been traveling a lot by herself. She survived somehow. How? Because she had to cook her own stuff. Not to mean that it's going to be like a chef's meal here or anything like that. It's just enough to be able to survive. I was going to learn ages ago. Oh? From whom? Geese. Geese would make a great teacher. He was a better cook than most. Roxy deliberately didn't change the subject. Geese might be their enemy, but that wasn't relevant at the moment. What did you learn from him? He wouldn't teach me. Why not? Edis's face turned pink, and she averted her eyes. He said he couldn't teach a woman to cook. A jinx, was it? Yeah, a jinx. Their eyes met, and they giggled. That's kind of cute. I didn't think about that the first time I read this. That's kind of cute. The fact that Edis's face turned pink and she averted her eyes. Because again, go back, way back here when they were on the highway. Like, they were going down that path, and at some point, she was wanting Geese to teach her how to cook. Why? She wanted to cook food for Rudius. She wanted to make something for him. But yeah, he didn't want to do that. Why? I think they implied at some point that he taught Zenith how to cook or something like that, and that turned disastrous for him. At some point, yes, Zenith caught the heart of, well, I already had the heart of Paul, let's be honest, but captured the heart of Paul, and their entire party broke apart. So it's something that he never wanted to do again. I don't teach women how to cook because it always leads to disaster. It's a jinx. So yes, technically right here, it's implying that when she asked Geese to teach her, and he's like, no, I'm not going to teach a woman how to cook because it's going to cause problems. You're going to end up getting with Rudius and it's going to cause problems. She's blushing right here. She's averting her eyes. Geese seen me as a woman in that situation, which is kind of a massive plus. This tomboy, bratty kid that's, you know, very destructive or whatever, he see me as a female, a woman. And yes, technically, she could also be turning pink right here at the idea of she was doing it for Rudius, and she might be a little bit... I don't know that she'd be embarrassed by it. She's very good at just boasting that she does things for Rudius. I don't know why she would blush or whatever in this situation. It's kind of cute. But it is kind of cool here to kind of note that Roxy could have changed the subject, but she didn't. She brought up Geese. And this is kind of a sensitive topic right now because Geese was important to the family, to many members of the family, especially to Rudius. And now we're going to have to go kill Geese. But there's no reason to really change the conversation right here. And I think there's part of it that could be more in the idea that Roxy's having a conversation with her. Keep it going. Roxy's soup wasn't anything special, but it wasn't horrible either. It just wasn't good. She mismeasured her seasonings, so the broth was way more salty, as she made far too much of it. There was enough soup for 5 people. Edis seemed to enjoy it regardless. More, please. She ate 3 extra helpings. She ate it more ravenously than her usual meals, if anything. But Roxy assumed that she was just being polite, taking extra helpings, not because it tasted good, but because it would be rude to just leave it. Edis's people skills were nowhere near that advanced. She was hungry right after exercising, and she'd been sweating, so she was craving salt. I don't know, this is one of those moments where you kind of wonder if it's not giving Edis enough credit, and then I would kind of see her just not caring as much as most people. Now, it does note that she ate more than usual, but again, it could be the fact that she was exercising, and she just doesn't have... She's not picky. I mean, we've never seen Edis as being picky. She probably would have ate that charred stuff on... She probably would have ate that charred lump if Roxy hadn't come in there. But I don't really see her doing this because she's trying to be polite to Roxy or anything. Though she could be getting comfortable with Roxy. Roxy realized the two of them had hardly talked like this. Years had flown by since Eris had joined the Grey Rat family. Yeah, I kind of thought about this the moment I read this too. Like, yeah, I think this is the first moment where we really had the two of them alone together talking about something. They had never grown close despite their mutual respect for each other's talents. Perhaps because neither of them were especially good at expressing themselves in words. Hey, Roxy, do you want another helping? It's not that. I wanted to ask a favor. You do? She wanted a favor? That wasn't so unusual. Eris didn't mind asking for help. She knew her own shortcomings and didn't hesitate to leave those tasks to others. I do think that's kind of a plus for her. Like, it's going to be pointless for me to even try this. She did try, technically. When she first joined the family, she was trying to find that place to fit, and it was a lot of things that she wasn't good at. But I think that was just kind of her panicking, her really trying to find that place to fit in there. I'll help if I can. I don't want you to teach me Demon Tongue. I thought you already learned it. I haven't spoken it in ages, so I'm worried I've lost it. I see. Rudius was in the King Dragon realm now, but Roxy knew that he'd be soon traveling to see the Demon King Etoff on the Demon Continent. When he did, Roxy and Eris would go with him. Roxy doubted there'd be much, if any, need for Eris to talk to anyone, but she imagined Eris didn't much like the idea of being left adrift. Unable to follow a single conversation, she couldn't operate independently if she couldn't communicate. Roxy continued the conversation in Demon Tongue. This is actually really cool. Okay, first right here, it is confirming that right now Rudius is in the King Dragon realm, which is weird because Eris was with him. So my assumption is that when he went to the king, right after he talked to the king, he's like, okay, things are cool. Eris, go back home. I don't know why he would send Eris back home unless he's wanting her to be back there to be with her son. But even that's kind of weird because after the whole situation, when he first found out that Geese was after him, they sent Eris to be with him, or at least Aisha did, to give him that safety. And he would assume that he'd want to keep Eris at his side, or at least Eris herself would want to stay at his side right now as he's traveling back to Millis, as he's traveling back to Astra, always being there at his side in order to protect him. But yeah, technically he did go to the Astra Kingdom. It didn't imply that Eris was there either. So it seems weird. But this is cool. Yeah, technically noting that Eris should already know how to speak Demon Tongue. This is something that she learned over time. Obviously traveling with Rudius to the Demon Continent, going all the way back home, being alongside Rijerd, would eventually learn the Demon Tongue. But I understand why she would want to make sure that she did know the Demon Tongue. Even like right here, she's saying, yeah, it's probably not going to be like this moment where we ask Eris to step forward and talk down somebody. There's no necessity for her to be knowing the tongue. But there's been way too many times up until this moment where Rudius is with Eris and there's a situation where she doesn't understand the language itself, so she doesn't know how to respond in the situation. I mean, that's a good example is Elise when they were on the Beggar Continent. Having that whole situation where there was something going down, somebody was mad at Rudius, and she didn't know what was going on. There's a necessity when there is a conflict happening, and especially when talks are going south, that Eris needs to know where the conversation's going so she knows when to take action. Yes, especially when they're about to go before Etoff. Like, Eris needs to know when to step forward. If Etoff is talking about how she's going to kill Rudius on the spot, Eris needs to know to step forward. Now, Eris is going to be able to read Etoff. Let's be perfectly clear. She's going to be reading the body language of Etoff, not just hearing. She's not going to go based on what Etoff's saying. She's going to be going based on her body language. Because Etoff can say, yeah, welcome here, but then she can see that she's getting into an attacking stance. She's going to go based on movement. But I think this is sort of kind of flagging that what I think is going to happen is I think at some point in the conversations, Eris is going to be the one to win. I have a prediction. I'm going to throw a prediction out here. I think Eris is going to win over Etoff. This entire volume, I've been wondering what Rudius's plan is in order to capture Etoff when Etoff is going to be hating his guts right now. Again, from her perspective, he weakened her and trapped her so that Pedagoose can come in, this person that she hates his guts, so Pedagoose can come in and finish her off. Absolutely spit in her face. What is he going to do to win her over? I think it's Eris. I think Eris is going to talk to her and win her over. Now, I still think it's going to turn to a fight. I think what's going to probably happen is there's going to be a duel to decide. Because if I remember correctly, that's what kind of happened with Rudius and her. They wanted a duel. So I think that's what's going to happen. Eris is going to propose to her, if I can beat you, you'll join Rudius. I think that's what's going to happen. I think a lot of this right here is Eris going, I need to know this so that I don't get left out of the loop anymore. I want to know what the conversation's going. I need to be more prepared. But I think there could be a side of here that she's kind of predicting this is the direction it's going to go and she's preparing for it. I think she might be planning to do this already, if that's what she's going to do. Roxy continued the conversation in Demon Tongue. How was the soup? Eris looked surprised for a second, and then her expression became serious. Eris gets serious. She then replied in the same language. It was delicious. It was a little salty for my taste. Seriously? Eris laughed. It sounds like you speak it just fine, Roxy said, switching back. I guess. I followed you better than I expected. Shall we try some more? Yes, please. Roxy then went on chatting about everyday things with Eris and Demon Tongue. She talked about the children and about school, and found that in the demon language, it was easier to talk frankly about topics she usually couldn't broach. When the conversation was over, Roxy felt like she and Eris had grown a little closer. The best wives of the Brutus Grey House reputation has increased. I absolutely adore this whole segment right here. I actually do. Yes, a part of it is because obviously Roxy is my favorite of the wives, but I also really love Eris, and again, I do acknowledge that this is a very rare moment for the two of them. These are two characters that you just never really seen interacting much with each other. Finally seeing those interactions between them is really great. And yes, it kind of fitting into the mold that you would kind of see it being. Roxy and Eris are not chatterboxes. So when are they going to get those moments where they communicate with each other? And kind of noting earlier this idea that they have just a problem with expressing themselves. So having two inexpressive people trying to communicate with each other is kind of a rarity. But I like how the connection happens between the two of them with what? The demon language, the demon tongue. That is so freaking cool. Like, to me, that's something that just absolutely jumps out and grabs me. The moment that I read this whole segment, I immediately recalled way back here with Roxy's backstory and her whole experience with her village. The idea that she grew up in that village, being unable to communicate like the other Magurdians, and at some point the parents noting this, figuring this out, and then choosing to learn the demon tongue. Her parents learned the language to teach her the language. It sort of implies that there's only like select few people that even know the demon tongue, because everybody else of the Magurdian tribe are just going to communicate through their minds. Like obviously the village chief is going to know it. That's why he was able to speak to Rudius and to Regerd. But again, they learned the language in order to teach it to Roxy. And that gave Roxy the ability to even be able to communicate to them and additionally communicate to other people, which this, yes, did help her when the one time that came that she felt like she had to leave the village. She was a burden upon the village and to her parents, leave the village and go out adventuring. This allowed her to be able to communicate with people and live a normal life that she wasn't going to be able to live in her village because she can't communicate to people. It's heartbreaking. And to have that be the way that she now communicates to Eris, finally communicates to Eris, is interesting. Because again, these are two individuals in this household that don't really express themselves much. They don't really communicate much. They have a little problem with expressing themselves. Like it says here, perhaps because neither of them were especially good at expressing themselves in words. These are two that are having communication issues between each other. And what bridges that? The demon tongue. Just like back at her hometown, that was the thing that bridged her with her parents. Now here, it's bridging her with one of the other wives, Eris. It's so freaking cool. Again, this could be just refuging, trying to think of some random way to throw the two of them together and have some sort of connection between the two of them. I think this is intentional. I think this is all very intentional, that Eris goes to her about this, and this becomes the way the two of them find a bond, really. Because again, it's pointing out here that she's talking frankly about topics that usually she couldn't broach. Normally she doesn't talk about this because she feels comfortable. It makes her feel comfortable. I think it's going out of its way to sort of symbolize for Roxy herself right now, I feel comfortable talking this language because this is a language that my parents taught me that finally gave me the ability to express and communicate with them. So thus it's something very warm and personal for her is the demon language. It's very personal to Roxy. Again, that's just how my mind went. And thus it kind of made this whole later segment of this chapter right here just absolutely hit just extra hard for me. But yes, there's the other side of it is that, yes, I love Roxy, I love Eris, and I love seeing the two of them just finally communicating with each other, which I think the only other time that we really had them communicating was probably the moment where Eris finally came back home and Sylphie and Roxy kind of assured her her place in the family is protecting Rudius. Which again makes me wonder why Eris is here and not with Rudius. Why the hell is she here? But no, it is cool to find out that he is in fact going to be bringing Roxy and Eris with him to the Demon Continent, which I think he kind of implied that before, that he'd be bringing the two of them with him. I'm still kind of curious if they will end up going to the Magurdian village. We'll get to be reuniting with the family. Are we going to finally have Rudius meets the parents again? Like this time, literally, he's going to have to go there and tell Rowan that, yeah, sorry, dude, I know you didn't want me to become my dad, but you're now my dad. So hey, Dad, how's it going? We're officially married. You can't dispute it now. It'll be cool, but I'm super excited for that. I think these next two chapters are gonna be a lot of fun. I'm super hyped to kind of jump into them and again see how things wrap up with Atof. I really do question how they're gonna pull it off. And again, my assumption is gonna be I think Eris is gonna win her over. I think let's be honest, Eris and Atof are so similar in the idea that they
are both hungry for fight. And so you put these two battle-hungry individuals in front of each other, they're going to be a kinship here. I think there's going to, in the end, I think there's going to be a kinship created here. I think Eris is going to win over Atof, and they're going to like each other. I think they're both going to be super pals. It's really going to turn into Atof probably respecting Eris, at the same time Eris respecting her as a fighter. And there could be an aspect of Atof sort of acknowledging Rudius as being strong, and that might impress Eris. I doubt that part, though. But again, I think there's going to be a mutual respect in combat prowess, which makes me think the fight between them is going to be pretty damn epic. I really do. Which kind of lends itself to the idea of Eris possibly fighting Atof solo, the two of them just fighting each other in a duel. And I kind of wonder if the others will get involved as well, if that will be like an aspect of her right-hand man, I forget who his name is. If he gets involved as well, that could be really cool to have Roxy have to face off against him, because they're kind of both magicians as well. It can turn into something really interesting here, and I'm curious to see how it kind of resolves. Now, the question mark is, Andrew, predictions on Kishirika. I don't think they're going to find Kishirika. I do believe eventually he's going to run into Kishirika, because Randolph giving him that ring does kind of lend itself there. But there could be another side of it where there's a possibility that Atof recognizes the ring. That could be interesting. That might actually favor him as well. If Atof sees the ring, and possibly it could be a bad sign. Atof could get more angry just him wearing that ring, because it points out specifically that he put it on. Which, again, it was very weird that he immediately puts it on. Man, this looks cursed. Let me put it on my finger. It could be a thing that, yes, this is something that can gain him a favor from Kishirika, but it could also be a thing that either Atof sees as a positive and will listen to him rather than going into a frenzy. Oh, you know, Randolph. That's great. Because, again, Atof is Badigadi's sister, and Badigadi is married to Kishirika. So she could know the ring as well, and that can open some communication between them. Or she could probably see it as something really bad. Like, this could be somehow tied to, I don't know, her husband, her late husband. I don't know. My brain is racing with possibilities, but we'll see when we get there. But that's it. We're gonna end it off there. We'll come back next week with probably 6 and 7, maybe intermission. I think there's an intermission after that one as well. We'll see how long those chapters are. But I'm assuming they're gonna be together, because it seems like they're heading off to the Demon Continent. I'm excited to see where we'll go from here. But that's it. That's it for this Mushoku Monday. I hope you guys enjoyed this Mushoku Monday, and you guys have a great rest of your day. But thank you guys so much for your support, your kind words, everything you guys do for me. It means so much to me. Thank you guys for dropping by for the premiere. Hey, chat. Hope you guys did well. Hopefully you hit the like button. If you didn't hit the like button, you're a babaka. But again, I appreciate you guys' support. And until next time, until the next Mushoku Monday, y'all take care. That was belching up. That was belching up. That was belching up billows of. That was belching up billows of thick. That was belching up. That was belching up billows of thick. That was belching up billows of thick smoke. That was belching up billows of thick.
Yes, Sir Randolph's place is without a doubt here with Lady Benedict and the Little Prince.
Zenoba had.
Yes.
Reese had a hunt. And Randolph took. And yeah. The heck's itchy.